Why is there duality? The universe's awareness of itself is facilitated through a body, and the default state of duality is the impetus to maintain that body. Duality gives meaning to the play of phenomena, subject and object, to affect it. Not many pursue spirituality, and of those, not many realize the non-self nature of dependently originated phenomena in more than a conceptual way. To know of a thing and to realize it experientially are not the same. If you memorize all the rules of baseball and study all the strategies and techniques of the game, you still can't call yourself a baseball player until you've played the game. And your ability to play will depend on physical training that's neither baseball nor its study. It is the same with spirituality. To know everything but do nothing is to be a mere critic of the game and not a player. It's easy to fall into this trap in spirituality because in other pursuits, study can render us an expert on a topic, and that becomes an identity. And identity limits perception to the relative. So the identity of expert is no less a stumbling block than any other identity. The doing aspect of spirituality involves letting go rather than accumulating. But there are ways to know of letting go. But the result is in the application, which takes a willingness to act, to be mindful of reactions, and to engage the feelings that underlie their related thoughts. To meditate and to notice when the mind is driving into the imaginary timeline for triggering or nostalgic thoughts, to be present, to live in the moment. There can be misconceptions about this, such as confusing living in the moment with living like there's no tomorrow. Another is that self-realization is solipsism. To say that there are no others isn't to say that others are automatons, but rather that what differentiates us from them isn't who we are by virtue of our being what's aware of these things. That awareness has no qualities to differentiate it. All such differentiators are observed by it. When identification with conditioning is held sacred, to speak of its consequence is blasphemy. The loss of handles of identity by which circumstance manipulates your state is total when the I to which they relate has returned to its source in the spiritual heart. It is no longer believed to be a subject relating to objects. It has been exposed as an observable thing, and as such, not the self that's observing it. It seems absurd to say, and yet to operate in this view allows for a palpable change to how reality is perceived. With no belief in being the conditioning, there's no means to draw an inner reaction from phenomena that threatens it. This decreases your utility in the eyes of the unconsciously mind-identified. They are on a quest to bend the world to their will, and the fact that you are not makes you either useless or an obstacle. Because while you are no longer driven emotionally by delusions, it doesn't mean you don't have a role to play. Everything can go on as before, sans the energetic cost of being the defender of imaginary things. The loss of identification with subtle and gross things makes one a heretic in a world of fiercely held loyalties and opinions. The one who cultivates in you the sense that you and your cause are righteous is a manipulator and an inverter of your energy. your energy is turned to their ends by where it leads you. The sacredness of a form is evidenced by its inclusion in the phenomenal world. It may not serve, and it may even countervail the identity of the beholder, but it is equally a product of the causal chain as that identity. Unrestrained violence is carried out by those who believe in the righteousness of their cause. What's considered right and good is the conditioning that was accepted without question on a first-come, first-served basis. The sense of separation created by ignorance, the identification with conditioning, is a prerequisite to the dehumanization of the other, which is a justification for unrestrained violence. It's not that the self-perceived good guys don't want what's good for someone. It's that they think their arbitrary conditioning is sacred and therefore deserving of what's good. Ignorance of self combined with insular conditioning yields a reaction when confronted with a world that harbors disagreement from all directions. The reaction to this disagreement is the start of conflict, be it inward, outward, or both. If this delusion breaks, the emotional consequences of circumstance will be changed to energetic ones, and the energy is viewed more impersonally than emotion. By the time energy is perceivable, reactions are known to be the product of delusion, and so their presence commences a search for the source of that delusion, a recentering of the perspective from being what's appearing in awareness to being the awareness in which that appears. This disconnects the relational bridge between circumstance and feeling. In this view, no one is special, but this doesn't forbid the mitigating of threats posed by the unconscious identitarian and their handlers. All positions are undermined by pointing to the non-self nature of content itself. To believe otherwise is to hold that some part of what's observed is the identity of what observes it. Even if the observable form facilitates awareness, that awareness is not an observable thing that can relate to other things. Mind control can only work on those who identify with form and conditioning.